Hey YouTube, welcome back. Oftentimes we talk about what makes an item good, or should I keep this thing? Should I vendor it? Is it worthwhile to spend my gold on stash tabs to have 1,000 different items? Let's talk about that today. Which items are good and which items are worth picking up? I figured that the best way to do this is just to have a bunch of items on the ground and then talk about them. So we'll see how long this video ends up being, but we are at a tier 4 Lightless Arbor. We're gonna go spend some gold and make a bunch of items, and then we'll talk about which ones are worth picking up, what you could use these items on, and then, you know, what I end up saving for me personally. So let's go spend some gold. How much do we have? We have 2.4 million. So add a box, get me in there. The only thing that I really want is Runes of Ascendance, because I still don't have a Bastion of Honor, by the way. All items, every chance. Nah, I'll skip that. Adds a box. I like adding boxes. Adds a... I'll take it. Cool. Adds a set item? No. Random chest. Duplicates all items from random chest. That's pretty expensive. I'm gonna skip that. Exalted jewel. You know what? Let's take that. Adds a box. Every time you add a box, I'm gonna get more Rune of Ascendance. Adds another box. It's kind of expensive. Adds a box. I don't care about this. Get that box out of here. Exalted items, everything. Adds a box. All right. So we're going to have... That's probably it, right? We can't do anything else. Adds one exalted item to all chests. Sure. All right. So we can't do anything else, right? We've priced ourselves out. Right. Enter the vault. What do we get? Give me some Runes of Ascendance, yeah? Ooh. We only got 5 boxes here. So that's like, what, 5 Runes of Ascendance? I'm gonna make a Bastion of Honor today, but... Alright, let's do one box at a time and see how this thing goes. Alright, so... What do we have here? We have like some pretty normal looking stuff. Poison res. So... You're gonna pick up an item for one of 2 reasons, right? Either the item you pick up is something you're gonna use, or it's something that you're going to slap onto an LP unique item. So is this LP fodder, or am I going to use it? And having an exalted resistance is pretty low priority anywhere. So like, I don't really want to use this. I don't really want to LP poison res onto something. I'd rather just leave this on the ground. So we'll skip that one here. This is a nice one. It has mana on it, which is like, maybe mana is going to be used for some kind of, what do you call it? What's that amulet called? Devotion. Like a devotion smite hammerden thing. But more realistically, like, you can probably just pick this up because it has life on it. You could use this as something that goes onto like a generic piece of body armor, like a Titan Heart, for example. Just like a bunch of generic affixes so that you could use it on any class. So we'll take that. Void res is pretty low priority. Health regeneration, the only thing that really comes to mind for this is like if I'm gearing up a character that uses either a Vessel of Strife, the unique relic, or if I have a regeneration Shard of the Shattered Lance set, that might be something that I'm interested in. So I don't really care about those. Also, like intelligence, movement speed, it's fine, but I'm going to pick up boots if they have like life, armor, cooldown, crit avoid, movement speed, vitality, movement speed. Movement speed is what you want on this. Last thing here is a one-handed sword with poison damage on it. In 0.9, I don't know of any builds in the game that use poison damage. And even if I did, I probably don't want a one-handed sword. Poison builds would probably want to have a chitin dagger or chitin dagger, whatever you want to call that. So poison damage on a one-handed sword doesn't really help us. You can take a look at the list of all the unique swords in the game and decide whether there's a sword out there they want poison damage on. But I don't think there really is one, so let's skip that. Let's keep going. Bloop. Couple things here. What is this? Tier 7 Freezerite multi? Oh my goodness. So Freezerite multi is a useful stat on one build, one style of build. Remember, there's a like the Frostbite. There's 2 Frostbite unique items. It's kind of like the unofficial Frostbite sets. Frostbite Gauntlet and then Snowdrift Boots reward you from having extra Freezerite multiplier in your build. If that's the kind of build you want to gear up for, maybe this is interesting for you. You can get this LP'd onto your Frostbite Gauntlets. But for me, it's not really a high priority. I'm just going to leave this on the ground. I don't care about this. Next up. Can I move this? I'm gonna take this item and put it over here. All right, what else do we have? We have some like weapons here, right? A Bardiche. Oh man. So, is there a build in the game that wants exalted melee fire damage? I'm not sure that there is. Swords are really weird, man. Like melee weapons are kind of weird. For melee weapons, I'm looking for flat crit with a plus sign, so biggest melee critical strike chance. Attack speed, crit multi, and then maybe if it's a bleed base, bleed, and if it's a poison base, poison. So those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about when I look at a weapon. I don't think this really has a place in the game. You could LP this onto like a Volcanus or something, but I don't really think that's a build that I care about. Damage per active shadow with Shadow Cascade. I'd have to go check my build planner to see if this is a modifier that you want. I don't think this is a modifier that you want. So if you have like, what is it, 5 shadows? Is like 200% increased damage, but like it's kind of on a bad base. I don't think this is something you care about. It's got armor and dodge on it. If you were like deep into rogues, you might know whether this is a modifier that you're looking for. I don't think it is. So I'll pick it up. Maybe I'll keep that. Maybe that's worthwhile. A mage helmet with exalted dodge rating. Dodge mages aren't really a thing, and I don't think there's any build in the game that wants flat dodge on it, even if you're playing, you know, a dodge based build. So what's weird about flat armor and flat dodge is like numerically they're just so low that it's hard to make a build work with flat armor and flat dodge in your gear. If your build gets flat armor, if your build gets flat dodge, then you can build percent armor and percent dodge. And like that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's like flat dodge, it's like not really a thing that exists. So this is a two-handed mace. Speaking of things that don't really exist. All right, listen, two-handed maces. I don't think there's a build out there that uses two-handed maces. And then there's also Balladar's Wrath. And a Balladar's Wrath is a unique two-handed mace that procs Earthquake for you. And on that thing, you want base critical strike chance. So to me, that's the only reason I would pick up a two-handed mace. Let's keep going. Armor Shred effects. Armor Shred effect is weird. You probably don't ever want this in a build. It's beneficial if you don't stack much Armor Shred. But then you can just fix that by building attack speed and stacking more Armor Shred. I think for the most part, just like skip out on Armor Shred. Because like stacking Armor Shred effect is going to get you to the armor diminishing returns at about like 80% increased damage taken. That just stacking more Armor Shred stacks would get you anyway. So maybe like slow hitting build or something would want this, but it's not a very high priority affix, and I would just skip it altogether. Chill on hits. Any kind of like chill, slow, frailty. Chill, slow, frailty. I think that's it. Exalted affixes for that are really not particularly helpful. Shock. Exalted shock, like you're going to hit the 10 stacks anyways. Blind is one of the worst modifiers in the game. Yeah, blind is also not particularly good. Yeah, all right. Well, we're gonna move past this. It makes me sad because like I like Bardiches. I really like Bardiches, but like this Bardiche, we're not looking for it. Moving on. This is a two-handed spear. Speaking of items that don't really exist, God, man, I wish we could buff spears somehow. So there's no spear builds in the game, and before you will actually me. Holy Trail Javelin exists. I like it. It's not really a spear build. You're not using melee damage. You're just using it to proc your Holy Trail off of your lunge. There's not really a build in the game that wants to use a two-handed spear. You could use Tyranni's Bidance, which is a unique spear, and then you could play one particular build with your Javelin, throwing it up in the air and having it proc smites and stuff, and that's cool. It's also not really a spear build. It's just a build that happens to use a spear. When I think about spear builds, I think about like melee characters, like poking things with a spear. Those builds are Vengeance, which somebody in Twitch chat is telling me that it's okay, but I want to try it out myself. I'm not sure it's okay. I think it's like, and then like Multi-Strike can use a spear. because you'd like to have as much attack range as possible, and spears have really good attack range. So that's something you can do. Somebody in Twitch chat is bringing up Harvest, saying that you could use a Trident, which has melee crit multi, on a Harvest character. The problem with using a Trident, a max roll Trident has 10 higher flat damage and 10 higher crit multi than an Odachi, but an Odachi is faster. And in Last Epoch, you'd rather just be faster instead. So, yeah, spears are really weird. They don't really exist. This one, it's a spear. Feels bad, dude. Hopefully Serpent Strike gets buffed someday. Hopefully spears get buffed. Hopefully we get skills or nodes or masteries or something that have synergies with spears. But currently in 091L, we don't have any of those things. So spears don't exist to me. Next up, Rune of Ascendance. Let's go like this. I'll bring them over here. So we have a couple items here. Exalted Resistance. I don't prioritize that at all. Health regen per second is cute. So this is relevant. Health regen per second. We said that you could use a Vessel of Strife if you want to be like a ward-based build, maybe on a Spellblade. You could be a Shard of the Shattered Lance character. Cold melee damage. It's kind of interesting as well. On a Sentinel helmet, health regen per second is interesting because you also have access to Manifest Armor. And Manifest Armor says gains increased effect for health regeneration from all items that affect Manifest Armor. So there is a style of building Manifest Armor where you can just like put, put the health regen on your helmet or on your gear, and then the rest of your character or the rest of your Manifest Armor gets increased effect as well. I think the downside of that is a Manifest Armor build often also uses forged weapons, and forged weapons, there is a set helmet that is quite good for forged weapons. If you have forged weapons in your build, it like gives you health regen, or it like gives you armor per forged weapon or something like that. So yeah, if you're interested in a helmet like this, you might also be interested in the set helmet for forged weapons instead. So that's what comes to mind here. All right, next up, Fizzres. Who cares? This thing has poison damage on it. To me, poison damage belongs on a dagger. That's pretty much it. Poison damage is pretty low priority. I can't think of a build that would want to use something like this, even if you're going to use this as LP fodder somewhere else. So we have one more box to take a look at today. Let's pop this thing open. Got a few items. 0 LP, Sag. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go like this. Let's go to normal short, because short will put those items in the right place down there. Makes it harder to know what they are at a glance, but yeah, there we go. We'll go like this. Cool. So we have a belt with tier 7 fire damage on it. Tier 7 fire damage is kind of interesting. Like, it's a tier 7 modifier. To me, I'm looking for belts that have Exalted Flat Life, Exalted Hybrid Life, Exalted Percent Life, and maybe Exalted Cooldown could be something that's interesting. But yeah, the prefixes on a belt for me are much lower priority than the suffixes, because you can get so much life from a belt. Like, it's a ton of life that you can get. So I don't know. This is not particularly interesting to me. Maybe as LP fodder, but if you're LPing onto a unique belt, you'd rather be LPing hybrid health or cleanse or percent health onto the unique belt. You'd rather not be LPing damage onto a belt. One-handed mace. What is this? It's a crystal staff with void damage on it. So there's a void staff in the game. It's Omnipotence. Omnipotence was good a long time ago. Ever since, well, I don't know what patch it was. Ever since the void spells in, where is it? Ever since the void spells in VK got changed to scale with vitality, now that they scale with vitality, they gain 2 flat spell damage per vitality. So Omnipotence doesn't have base critical strike chance. It also doesn't have increased critical strike chance. It has flat damage, but you get a ton of flat damage by stacking vitality instead. So Omnipotence has kind of fallen off. It's not really the item that it used to be. It's got mana efficiency, but you can get that on your idols as well. So this is a pretty low priority staff for me, knowing that there's not really a place for it in the game. But I mean, it's got a big number on it. So maybe I could like try to find an LP Omnipotence, and then, but like you don't want to put void damage on Omnipotence. I don't know. It's rough. I don't think the Exalted void damage on a staff is really something that I'm interested in. But let's keep looking around. With this ruby thing. Ruby amulet with minion damage on it. Yeah, that could be a thing. So you probably don't use this. This is probably like LP fodder, right? So there's turquoise items, like the turquoise amulet and the turquoise rings. The turquoise rings are quite good because they have minion health, minion damage, minion crit multi, which is huge. The amulet is not particularly good. Like, you'd rather just use a bone amulet or some kind of unique amulet, something like that. But using this to like LP onto a unique amulet, maybe put this on a death rattle, for example, or put this on, I don't know, the claw or some, primalist item. I don't know all the primalist amulets off the top of my head. But you could use this. Yeah, this would be like a reasonable item. For me, I'm not going to pick it up because I don't really care about minion builds, but this could be a reasonable item to LP onto something later on. Let's take a look at this Oracle Amulet. Yo, this Oracle Amulet. Holy moly. So this is like pretty clean suffixes. I like this a lot. It's got an open prefix, pretty clean suffixes, like Frailty is pretty generically strong. You probably chaos spam the fire res to get something else instead. But Exalted LE dot is huge. Oh, it goes up to 199, and we rolled 189 on this. So you could use this as LP fodder onto something else, but an Oracle Amulet's like pretty strong. Damage over time is one of the most difficult things in the entire game to mitigate because armor doesn't work, glancing blows doesn't work, dodge doesn't work, block doesn't work, silver shrouds don't work. What do you do? So if you take a look at my EHP video, you know that like the lowest form of mitigation that any character has is damage over time. So using an Oracle Amulet, there's a place for this in the game. I think it's pretty good. It's kind of bougie. Like if you can afford not to have a bone amulet on your character, then an Oracle Amulet might be something that you're interested in. It's quite strong. So yeah, this is definitely a good item for us. The last item here is the Brass Amulet. So it's a usable base. It's definitely usable. Poison damage, lightning damage, shock chance. So shock chance used to go up to, shock used to stack 20 times. It now only stacks 10 times. Even when it's stacked 20 times, the builds that had shock chance in them didn't really have an issue getting to like capped shock stacks. Maybe if you only hit like once every once in a while, but like lightning builds, if you think about lightning builds, a lot of them are quite spammy. Like Smite is quite a spammy playstyle. Lightning Blast is quite a spammy playstyle. Like Lightning Fireball is quite a spammy playstyle. All those builds have a pretty easy time stacking shock chance. So the fact that it only caps at 10, the fact that you could have Exalted anything else instead of Exalted shock chance, this is not really the kind of thing that you're looking for. So I'm just going to leave that on the ground. So we talked about 5 boxes worth of Exalted items here. I only picked up these 3 items from all of it. I'm not really sure about this helmet. I'm not sure it's particularly good, but definitely the chest piece and definitely the amulet here. Those are things that I'm into. So if you would have picked up more loot than I did, let me know. If you would have picked up less loot than I did, let me know as well. But hopefully this is it's an informative way of like looking at loot and figuring out what kinds of things you do want to pick up, what you don't want to pick up, and at least my personal opinions on those things. So thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.